What's up, fellow invaders, you rotten, bloodthirsty rat bastards? We're we're back with some more invasions. I've got a poison build here today. It's actually a deadly poison build. I'm using the Serpent Bone Blade. I've got the Tooth Whip from the DLC, and I've got the Coil Shield, which all do deadly poison. Now, if you don't know how deadly poison works, it's the same thing as regular poison, except for it only lasts half as long, but it does twice as much damage per tick. So, same total damage, but it just gets there a little bit quicker. Now, there's a key reason why that is good. For starters, a lot of times people will actually cure their poison, and you don't end up getting the full amount of damage possible from the poison proc, right? They might just be if they're going to be poisoned for 15 seconds and then cure it, like it makes sense for it to be deadly poison and do twice as much damage in that 15 seconds, because they probably are going to cure it, right? The other thing is that you've got a couple of buffs that can really help you on poison builds. It's the Poison Crown, the Kindred of Rod Exaltation, and then the Poison Hand. Those each give you a percentage damage buff when you trigger poison, or even when you get poisoned. I think it's 20% for the Talisman, 10% for the Helmet, 7.5% for the Fists, and you can load all those things up. And those buffs, they last 20 seconds, and Deadly Poison lasts 30 seconds. So basically you're buffed for 20 seconds, you wait 10 seconds for the poison to wear off, then you can start building up the poison again and trigger your buffs again. If you're just doing regular poison, then you're buffed for 20 seconds, you've got to wait 40 seconds for the poison to wear off, and then you can start building it up again. So you're not going to be buffed for as much time as you would be with the deadly poison. So that's another benefit of it. And then to try to make the deadly poison happen as much as we can, we've got basically all the things that build up deadly poison. We've got Serpent Bone Blade, Tooth Whip, and Coil Shield. These are all pretty light. You can have all these equipped all at the same time. Now I do have the poison bone darts, I think they're called, and I throw those at enemies, which can inflict poison. Now that's just regular poison, but what I try to do is I try to hit them with a couple of those and just kind of get the build-up going a little bit, because deadly poison and regular poison, they have the same build-up, like they both contribute to the same build-up meter, but it's whatever one you hit with when you actually proc it is what's going to actually occur, right? So you want that final hit to proc the poison to be with something that causes deadly poison. So we've got all the items here, and the Tooth Whip is actually pretty nice in the offhand. I haven't really used offhand weapons much, but the whip, it's pretty quick and it has pretty good range. See right here, like I wouldn't have been able to reach him there with the katana, but I was able to reach him there with the whip. I would have had to take a step forward with the katana, then he would have dodged, and then he would have had a chance to keep fighting, right? So it came in pretty handy. I've tried like the off-stock before and a couple other offhand things and never really enjoyed it, but this is one that I do really enjoy and would actually highly recommend. Now, if you're not really into poison, you don't have to do a poison build. There's a number of other ways to do this. If you like the idea of having the katana with the little double slash attack for some mix-up potential, which is pretty good, I'd recommend it. The ideal way to optimize this would actually be with the Arumi in the offhand. It has more range and more damage than the Tooth Whip. And then in the right hand, you would want to go with the the Sword of Night. The Sword of Night is the DLC katana that you get from doing Yolan's questline. Yolan and Ymir's questline. So you get that at the end. It's a fair ways into the DLC. It might be a little tricky to set up on a level 90 build like this. But if you can have someone drop you the weapon, or if you're pretty good at the game, you can go through and it wouldn't be impossible to do it. So you could do that, and basically that would be the more ideal setup, the Arumi and the Sword of Night, because the Witching Hour Slash is a much better weapon art than the double slash weapon art that we get on this weapon. The other thing is that the Sword of Night actually has bleed buildup instead of poison buildup, and as we all know, bleed buildup is definitely better. The third thing is that the Witching Hour Slash to R2 is a true combo, so if you don't charge the weapon art on the Sword of Night, and you hit with that, and then you just tap R2 after, you're definitely going to get that follow-up attack as well, unless you have crazy latency or something. So that would actually be a really good setup, and honestly, I should probably get those weapons for this build and just give it a try at some point, or maybe do it with one of my other builds. Maybe I'll do it with my high-level dexterity build. Something to look forward to. Keep an eye out for that. Now, I do have a few other weapons on me just for variety. I think I've got like the Twin Blade. I've got the Warhawk Talon, a couple other dex weapons. They're all infused with poison though, so the damage isn't really the highest, so I kind of use those sparingly. But we actually managed to get a kill there from the poison buildup, which is pretty nice. I've been trying to get more of those. The one thing that I need more of to make that happen though is Albinaric pots. I should have mentioned that earlier. So Albinaric pots, if you are really going to commit to a poison build and you want to make it work, one of the most satisfying things is making people die of poison, right? There's nothing funnier than like running around after somebody and they won't stop to heal because they know you're going to hit them, but they just keep running until they die of poison. That's what we all try to do with the poison build, right? But in order to make that happen more often, what you really need are the Albinaric pots. So those are pots that you can make using ritual pots, and you also need items that you farm from Albinarics. And the drop rate is a little bit low, so it's kind of a pain in the ass to do, but if you hit someone with these, it has the same effect as the weapon art of the winged scythe. It stops you from healing for, I think, 30 seconds or something like that. So if someone's got pretty low health, you poison them, you nail them with an Albinaric pot, and then they're not going to be able to cure it. Or, sorry, they will be able to cure it. They're not going to be able to heal themselves. And they're not going to be able to cure it if you're right on their ass. So, pretty effective and pretty funny, but you have to farm the materials to get that. Now, another really funny status effect to kill people with is Deathblight. Deathblight is pretty hard to kill people with yourself. You've got the Eclipse Jodel, which kind of sucks. The reason it sucks is because it doesn't do very much Deathblight buildup, and you're definitely going to kill your enemy before you actually inflict Deathblight on them. So it just doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. And then there's also the Fia's Mist spell, and the Death Lightning spell that do a little bit of Deathblight buildup, but it's just not enough, and people won't really sit in that. But one way that you can Deathblight people is by leading them into Deathblight enemies. So these guys, Basilisk, and there's a few giant crabs that have Deathblight. So, you know, it's always good to take an opportunity to try to get a Deathblight when you can. And this guy is being super annoying enemies with the Star Shower, or whatever that one is called. So, you know, normally I probably wouldn't try to go towards these Deathblight enemies. I think if this stuff hits me, it can do some Deathblight to me, but it seems like it doesn't really do much when I go close to it. Or maybe I just have to be right into it. I don't know. It almost seems like it's less effective against invaders, but I know it can do build-up. I don't really know. But anyways, we're going to try to get these guys Deathblighted, and like we're in the forest here, so what better place than here to plant a tree, right? And this guy, he's not even trying to roll out of it. It's almost like he wants to be Deathblighted deep down inside. I think he wanted to become a tree because he didn't make an attempt to really get out of there. So I think he's actually maybe happier now. This guy, though, he didn't like that his friend got killed, so he ran away, and he was just dodging like crazy, and for whatever reason I just couldn't roll catch him. I don't think he has light roll. It doesn't look like he has light roll, though it looks like he has pretty light gear. But I think the problem was just me. I just wasn't able to roll catch him there. But finally we do manage to get some good hits on him, and we have an opportunity to kill him, and then I'm out of stamina, and I can't hit him, and he manages to heal. So pretty unfortunate, but we've got him poisoned now, so we're in a little bit better situation. We get him with a good hit there, and then there we go. There's the poison kill. So very satisfying. I think he was just trying to summon his friend back. He would have been better off if he just tried to fight, though, instead of waiting for his friend. Now, one thing that this build does kind of struggle with, it doesn't really have a ton of poise or anything like that, and because I'm one-handing this katana, well, I'm two-handing it here, but even two-handing the katana, you don't get like hyper armor or anything like that, right? So you can't really be trading attacks with people, especially people that have a great hammer like this, and if there's any kind of latency at all, it makes it really difficult to get your hits in when it's safe. What you want to do is you want to hit people early before they start winding up with their attacks, before their hyper armor kicks in. That way you can stun them out of their attack. But if there's a little bit of latency, you hit them, but it doesn't register until they're mid-attack, and at that point they've got their hyper armor, so they just kind of plow through it. And you end up trading with people, which is not great. Now, running heavy attack is not the worst thing to trade with a katana when you're the one using the katana, because you at least get that little bit of counter attack damage that kind of evens things up a little bit. So if you're doing, running heavy attack into someone's light attack, it might be somewhat of a fair trade, but more often than not, going up against a great hammer, great axe, colossal definitely, you're going to be losing that trade for sure. This person's also got bleed, and they've also got frostbite, and I'm frostbitten, so my defenses are a little bit lower. Their defenses are higher when they've got hyper armor, so all of that is really working against me. In situations like that, you can fight someone like that, but when there's a second person with you, or with them rather, it makes it really tough because it's the second person that you've got to watch out for. And, trying to time things perfectly, trying to use your spacing and timing to stun them before they get into their hyper armor, that kind of thing, it can feel next to impossible. And again, especially if there is some latency. I don't think this invasion was particularly bad in terms of latency, but I just wanted to mention that that's something that can be an absolute killer when you're using a katana or a straight sword or something like that, and your opponent's got a colossal sword or a, again, great hammer, great axe, any of that stuff. So elevators are a great way to separate people. In a lot of my videos, I talk about trying to isolate the host and then being able to kill the host once you get one-on-one. It's a kind of a must-have skill for invader. Honestly, if you're starting invading, you really want to go into the arena a little bit, do some one-on-ones, and just kind of become competent. There's a lot of really good fighters in the arena. You don't need to be able to kill everybody there, but as long as you can hold your own in the arena, you'll be able to kill most hosts when you get into a one-on-one situation. So we took the elevator down, we managed to separate him. His friend would have died if he fell down, and that gave us the window. That's all we needed. Now what you're seeing here, this is a pretty popular gank spot. I'm actually not 100% sure that these guys were ganking. I really don't know that they were, but people go down into those little rooms, those little dungeon rooms in the ruins like this, and they try to lure people down there. Now, it's not really a great gank spot because if you've got like Cannon of Haima or the big fireball spell, Giant's Flame Take Thee, or any number of things like that, like Jar Cannon, check out that sweet jump kill there. Any number of like big AoE things, you just like blast it all down there and you just kind of flush them out. There's nowhere for them to go. So it doesn't usually work out well for the gankers, but you do see it pretty often, and I can see why people think that it would be, good option. They're all waiting down there with like Spinning Slash or something like that, and they know if you walk into it, you're just going to get absolutely deleted. But yeah, again, I really don't think these guys were ganking. It looks like they're doing a fun co-op cosplay build as the Godskin Noble and the Godskin Apostle, so that's pretty cool. This is the last invasion in the video, and this one was actually a really tough invasion. This is just the end here. I've cut a bit of the beginning out because it was a little bit long. There was actually a third co-opper. He ended up returning to his own world, so he didn't die or anything. He just left for whatever reason. But these knights came in clutch. This guy gets absolutely nailed twice with that giant great bolt, and it's a lightning great bolt at that. So he's doing a ton of damage. We get the really nice plunging attack with him there. And now that his friends are gone, he gets a nice little counter attack there to get me to back up. But yeah, now that his friends are gone, he wants to back up, and he's going to go for a spot where he can, just fight us fair. And this goes back to what I was saying before about you need to be able to 1v1 people when you get into a situation like this where there's no co-opers but no enemies. You need to see a situation like this and be like, okay, I've got him now, right? So he thinks this is a good situation for him, but this is a good situation for me as well. This is exactly what I want. And that's the last invasion for the video, so I'm going to show you the stats now. So it's just pretty much a typical dex build. Pretty much all the stats are in Vigor and Dex with a little bit in Endurance, and just enough Arcane and Strength to use the Serpent Bow and the weapons that I want to use. 50 Vigor is kind of a must for me at level 90. Here's a quick look at the faction if you want to get a really good look at it there, and you can see the armor and talismans that I'm using. So I'm using the Lacerating Cross Tree Talisman from the DLC, and that powers up your running attacks. And Millicent's Prosthesis gives me a little bit more dex, as well as a small damage buff on consecutive attacks. That actually triggers with a single R2 attack with this weapon. Here's a look at the weapons that I keep on the build. Now everything from the Hoslow Whip on, including that whole bottom row, is just kind of junk that I've picked up just from playing through the game and stuff, and that'll be thrown in storage. But everything else, you can see it's all poison infused, a few dex things with the poison weapon art, and that's essentially it from the build. Really appreciate you watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and keep an eye out for more builds.